Or as a black minister, would you please explain why you haven't explained to told your congregation of the evils of Planned Parenthood? Everybody's talking about being woke. 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 And you didn't know that Margaret Sanger? You didn't know that Margaret Sanger said this? We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood. Now, this was written in 1939. So how are you going to be woke? How are you going to be a woke church and don't know this? This is old. This is old. You bishops and pastors and leaders out there, if you haven't told your congregation about the #1 killer of African Americans, an organization that kills more African Americans every 2 weeks than the Klan did in its entire history, you are not qualified to use the word woke. For you are the epitome of being asleep. You're asleep at the wheel. Now, Hillary Clinton did when she received the Margaret Sanger Award. Hillary Clinton did say, I admire Margaret Sanger. Enormously, not a little bit, enormously. That's right. All y'all who are taking pictures, that's fine. Come on, you can get them. She did. These are her words. They're not my words. You know what? I would have never, there's no politician, Republican nor Democrat, see, I'm an independent, no politician would get my vote nor my support if they would have said, I admire Margaret Sanger, the woman who said, our goal is the extermination of the Negro race. What kind of Negro would vote for a woman who would say such a thing? Got to be a dumb Negro to do that. Something wrong with you, Negro. I admire Margaret Sanger enormously. Her courage, her tenacity, her vision. Kill a Negro. Her vision. Kill the Negro race. Her vision. This is what Hillary said when she got her award. Said Hillary Rodham Clinton, I am really in awe of her. What? What? I am really in awe of her. There is a lot of lessons we can learn from her. And you know what they are? Kill a Negro. There's a lesson. Kill the Negro population. Now how?
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be back in Houston with so many friends and to have an opportunity to participate in the Planned Parenthood annual meeting. I have to tell you that it was a great privilege when I was told that I would receive this award. I admire Margaret Sanger enormously. Her courage, her tenacity, her vision. Another of my great friends, Ellen Chesler, is here, who wrote a magnificent biography of Margaret Sanger called Woman of Valor. And when I think about what she did all those years ago in Brooklyn, taking on archetypes, taking on attitudes and accusations flowing from all directions, I am really in awe of her. And there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from her life and from the cause she launched and fought for and sacrificed so greatly.
Do you believe in sin? When I say believe, I don't mean believe in committing sin. Do you believe there is such a thing as sin?
Well, I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world that have disease from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be a human being, practically. Delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they're born. That, to me, is the greatest sin. that people can commit.
We must take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society. And the truth is, we don't very well know how to rehabilitate them at that point. That's the sad truth. I'm the guy that said, rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it. And even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, there's the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. It's a shame, but we don't know how to rehabilitate. But there is a consensus, and I will cease. A, we must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malefactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change their behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. But we would be absolutely stupid as a society if we didn't recognize the condition that nurtured those folks still exist, and we must deal with that.
Murderers, rapists, child molesters, 26,000 dangerous criminals will be released from prison under Proposition 66. Keep them off the streets and out of your neighborhood. Vote no on 66. Keep them behind bars.
At Stanford Law School, Michael Romano and his students don't just study justice, they go in search of it, seeking to free those who, because of California's 3 strikes law, are serving life sentences for minor crimes.
His third strike was shoplifting a pair of gloves and a spool of wire from Home Depot.
That is one of the inmates Ashley Nicole Davis is helping. And another client
was arrested attempting to steal a car radio.
California passed its harsh 3 strikes law in 1994 after the high-profile kidnapping and killing of 12-year-old Polly Klaas by a repeat offender. It was meant to keep serial murderers, rapists, and child molesters off the streets. But Stanford students saw a disturbing pattern.
There's not just a handful of people who are sentenced to life. These aren't the exception. This is the rule. There are thousands of people who have been sentenced to life in prison for nonviolent crimes.
They discovered more than 4,000 such cases, says former student Emily Galvin.
At every level, there had been a prosecutor or a judge who thought it was okay to hand down a life sentence for shoplifting. Was really horrifying to me.
Armed with what they'd learned about 3 strikes, the Stanford students began a campaign for change. They gathered signatures and wrote a ballot measure. In the November election, Proposition 36, a major reform of the law, was passed by 70% of California voters.
The people have spoken, and the people no longer want to hand down these ridiculously harsh sentences for minor crime.
With the change, 3 strikes inmates can now appeal to have their cases reviewed. The students are being repaid in gratitude by the prisoners they're helping.
I am very happy that Prop 36 has passed. To now being on the verge of having my life back is overwhelming. Thank you for your efforts in my favor, also in treating me like a human being.
The Stanford students have now brought hope to inmates who believe they've already done enough time for a minor crime. John Blackstone, CBS News, San Francisco.
Another thing about how perspectives change over time. Bobby Rush, member of Congress, said the other day, "I'm ashamed that I voted for the '94 crime bill." You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. And in fact, I drafted the bill, as you remember.
I know that.
And by the way, we talk about this mostly in terms of Black Lives Matter. Black lives really do matter. But the problem is institutional racism in America. That's the overarching problem that still exists. And we should be talking about it. And you look at it, the legacy of racism in housing and jobs and so on. So, but having said that,
murderers and murder victims fit one MO. You can just take the description, Xerox it, and pass it out to all the cops. They are male minorities, 15 to 25. That's true in New York. It's true in virtually every city. And that's where the real crime is. You've got to get hands over people that get killed. She's going to, if you want to spend the money, put a lot of cops in the street, put those cops where the crime is, which means in minority neighborhoods. So it's one of the unintended consequences is people say, oh my God, you are arresting kids for marijuana that are all minorities. Yes, that's true. Why? Because we put all the cops in the minority neighborhoods. Yes, that's true. Why do we do it? Because that's where all the crime is. And the way you get the guns out of the kids' hands is to throw them up against the wall and frisk them. And then they say, oh, I don't want to get caught, so they don't bring the gun. They still have a gun, but they leave it at home.